Thank you for tuning in to another episode of RoundTable with Steve. Today we speak to a different type of entrepreneur. We speak to Dr. Jill Stein, the 2016 presidential candidate with the Green Party. We caught up with her at a rally that she had down in Miami, which was being sponsored by the Green Party along with the Lab Miami. Here's a little bit of what she had to say.
It ought to be about food sovereignty. It ought to be about security in our communities. It ought to be about putting an end to police violence and racism. You know, these are the frontline struggles of our communities. It ought to be about a welcoming path to citizenship for immigrants who are here basically as refugees from extremely destructive economic and military policies that the U.S. has inflicted all over the world, but particularly on Latin America and Central America. That's what our surge of immigration has been about. It's been a flight of desperation, really, from economies that have been destroyed by the likes of NAFTA and the Trans-Pacific Partnership that both parties are pushing now.
She actually had some very interesting points. I'm not sure if a lot of you know it, but we have more than two political parties. There are a lot of independent parties, but they're not able to participate in the debates or even some of the nationalized political arenas that we see because of a lack of funding, because of the laws that are out there. But Dr. Stein tells us how she's fighting to change these laws to allow some of the independent parties to participate in these things, where we as American citizens can be better represented.
As a mother and a medical doctor, which is my background, it was just really clear to me that things aren't working. And, and I was seeing in the clinic, this epidemic of asthma and cancer and learning disabilities in our kids, and and an epidemic of diabetes and overweight and all these things that are descending on our communities. And so I started getting involved to try to deal with some of the causes. I didn't want to just give people pills and push them back out to the things that are causing these things. We know air pollution, we know that the food system we have that denies whole communities adequate nutrition. We've got these food deserts, especially in low-income communities and communities of color. People don't have access to the food that we need. Poverty, joblessness, homelessness, all these are driving the diseases. Air pollution, the fact that so many polluting coal plants and factories are located where low-income people are living,
right,
where working people are living. It's absolutely unjust, and I felt as a doctor, that the real medicine lies in fixing the causes, not just giving people expensive pills that sometimes have side effects and that you can't afford anyhow. We need to get down to the bottom of the problem, that we can have better jobs that make our communities healthier. We can get rid of poverty. We can ensure that everyone has the right to a job and that they have a living wage. There's just lots of things we can do that provide holistic solutions. So now when people say, what kind of medicine are you practicing? I say I'm practicing political medicine because politics is the mother of all illnesses, and we've got to fix our sick political system if we want to fix the things that are literally making us sick, from poverty to pollution to joblessness, these, and to lack of health care. These are fixable problems.
And as an internalist, you know what it's like to get inside and fix the problem from the inside.
There you go, exactly.
All right. Now that brought me to another thing too. You mentioned as far as like the medication and things of that sort. What about big business? I'm sure big business has approached you to give donations or whatever. How do you keep away from that? How do you say no to them without alienating some of your voters?
Yes. So the thing about the party I belong to, the Green Party, it's the one political party, it's the one national political party that has a rule that we don't accept money from for-profit corporations,
right,
or from their lobbyists. Or
so the Koch brothers shouldn't call you.
Exactly. So don't take it personally, but we just don't do that. And that kind of gives a kind of assurance to the people who support the party that we're not going to get corrupted, because that's just not allowed. A lot of times, we see politicians who start off with the right idea, but then they play with the system. And that's actually why I did not join the Democratic Party, because my early experience showed me basically that the Democratic Party refused to take the money out of politics. We passed a referendum in my home state of Massachusetts. We, the people, passed a voter referendum to take the money out of politics, to provide public funding for candidates so they wouldn't have to make those backroom deals. And then the Democratic Party repealed the law. After we, the voters, passed it, they repealed it. And that told me, no, I think I need a new party here. I don't want to play in a system that that's playing by those rules that make you corrupt.
So what about people that say, well, you need that money in order to run the campaign. You need to be able to afford the advertising. How do you go about getting that advertising dollar? How do you go about spreading the word without the big money?
Through what we call the real press. We have a name for the corporate press. We call them the O-press and the re-press. And the deep press, because that's what they do.
Right.
They leave us really without a voice. They silence us because the press has become part of a big profit-making corporation. Not across the board, but for the most part. So we rely on real press like yourself, grassroots, independent journalists who are not getting paid off by any big corporation to not tell the truth. Now, in this day and age, we have the internet and we have Facebook, and we can go a long way with that. But it's also word of mouth. It's also about community organizing. So what we're doing in our campaign, we have a website, by the way, which is jill2016.com, and I encourage all your viewers and your listeners to go there. So we're getting the word out about that.
Okay.
We're also suing the debate commission. The guys who run the debates make the rules in a way that only lets in Democrats and Republicans. So it's not nonpartisan, it's very partisan. And we're taking them to court to say, you've got to open this up, because we as Americans need debates that allow us, we have a right as voters to know who our choices are. So for candidates who've done the work and they've gotten on the ballot in enough states that they could actually win the election, that voters have a right to be educated and informed about who their choices are. So that's the case we're trying to move in the courts.
All right. Now, I'm being told by your associates that we only have 5 minutes, so
I'll try to be real.
I have to get to the other questions that I have on here. Now, one of the questions I have is, now, are you concerned about meeting the same opposition? Should you win the election that President Obama met? Because him setting the precedence as being the first African American president, and you would be the first female president. Are you,
Yes, it would be very difficult. However, we're sort of learning from the hard experience that we've had, in the Obama presidency. So we're sort of forewarned. So we have a few strategies in place now to enable us to fight, to get into office, and then to keep fighting. So we're not going to let anybody go home and move on after Election Day. Whether we win the office or whether we simply move forward to advance the kinds of policies that everyday people need. We need health care as a human right. What we've done in some states to expand Medicaid, that needs to be the case for everybody.
Exactly.
Because there are some people who are just above Medicaid, they're working, but they can't qualify. We're the only, advanced country, the only developed economy in the whole world that does this. So we deliver lots of money to the pharmaceutical companies.
And they give us nothing in return.
Exactly. Right. And we have what I call a sick care system too. That we're making ourselves sick with bad food. We're not doing it voluntarily. It's policies that made us this way by creating food deserts and by making unhealthy food very cheap and making healthy food very expensive. We're making people sick. So the other thing we have to do around healthcare is start supporting actual health. And we can do that. We have a major policy called the Green New Deal. We want to be sure that everyone has a job, that everyone can work in a way that helps us get to a green, sustainable economy that makes your community healthy, that greens our energy so it's clean, you're not polluting the air, the water, clean energy, healthy food, and public transportation. Because we're all getting screwed on that. By doing that, it also makes us healthy. So it's a win-win solution.
Okay, now, two more quick questions. I see them. One of them is, who would you choose as your running mate? Would it be another independent, or would it be a Democrat or Republican?
The way election laws work, it would not be a Democrat or Republican. And I would want someone operating on the same principles so they can't be influenced by big money. And it's an open discussion right now, but we're certainly looking for something to diversify our ticket. So perhaps to bring on someone from the communities of color, someone from the Latino community. There are voices that need to be lifted up. And our campaign is dedicated to lifting up these struggles in our communities to make us a country that serves us all. We should be that in the campaign.
I'm getting the time now. Okay, I just want to thank you very much for being on Roundtable with Steve, and we welcome you to come back anytime, okay?
I will be back, and
Okay.
I really look forward to talking with you more, Steve.
Okay,
Congratulations
thank
on
you.
a wonderful program.
Well, she certainly gave us a lot to think about, and we really have to get out there and vote in 2016. Now, a lot of us sit back and we say, well, we're not represented or you know, whatever it is. We have to vote. If you don't vote, don't complain. Dr. Stein, I thank you very much for being on Roundtable with Steve, and I thank you for sharing the information that you did with our viewers. I, for one, feel like I learned a lot from you today. Thank you. Tune in next time for another episode of Roundtable with Steve, where we speak to another entrepreneur. Who knows? It may be you.